Motivation feels good. It's exciting, it's energizing, and it gives us that initial spark to begin something new. We all know the feeling, that surge of inspiration after hearing a powerful story, or reading a book, or watching someone else achieve something remarkable. In those moments, everything seems possible. But here's the reality. That feeling doesn't last. It fades. It always does. And when it does, what's left? That's where discipline comes in. Discipline is what builds what motivation can't sustain. The truth is, you don't need discipline when everything feels easy. You need it when the mood is gone, when the work is boring, when no one is watching and no one's clapping. That's the test. That's when progress really happens. Not when you feel like doing the work, but when you do it anyway. Discipline fills the gap between intention and action, and that gap is where most people give up. It's easy to start. Starting is never the hard part. We begin with energy and good intentions. We imagine the outcome, the reward, the praise. But what carries you from day 1 to day 100, from enthusiasm to mastery? It's not inspiration. It's consistency. And consistency is the child of discipline. That's what allows you to keep showing up again and again, through setbacks, through boredom, through uncertainty. What discipline gives you is trust in yourself. Every time you keep your promise to yourself, every time you follow through on what you said you would do, even when no one's watching, you build inner strength. You're not relying on fleeting emotion. You're building something deeper, something stable. Discipline becomes a quiet confidence. You begin to know, deep down, that you can handle difficult things, not because you always want to, but because you've trained yourself to. That kind of internal trust changes everything. It changes how you lead, how you communicate, how you move through stress, and how you respond to failure. Because disciplined people don't just survive challenges, they grow through them. They don't collapse under pressure. They adapt and keep moving forward. Discipline doesn't remove difficulty, but it prepares you to face it with clarity and endurance. We often hear people say they just need to find the right motivation, as if that's the key to break through. But the truth is, the breakthrough happens after motivation runs out. When you wake up and don't want to do the work, but you do it anyway. When you're tired, when it's inconvenient, when no one else is depending on you, and still you show up. That's when growth happens. That's when the real shift begins. And it's important to understand discipline is not about perfection. It's not about being robotic or never having moments of struggle. Discipline allows for mistakes. It allows for setbacks. But it always pulls you back on track. It gives you a framework to return to. It reminds you of who you are and who you're becoming, even on the days when everything feels off. It becomes a source of strength that doesn't depend on your circumstances. You don't need to feel inspired every day to create something meaningful. You need to be steady. You need to keep showing up, because excellence doesn't come from bursts of effort. It comes from habits. It's the accumulation of small decisions made consistently over time that leads to mastery. And those decisions aren't fueled by motivation. They're fueled by discipline. That's why I believe discipline will save your life, because in a world that constantly pulls at your attention, that offers distraction at every turn, discipline is what keeps you grounded. It's what keeps you focused on what matters most, even when everything else feels urgent. It's what allows you to say no to what's comfortable and yes to what's meaningful. And the best part is, discipline is always within reach. You don't have to wait for it to show up. You don't have to hope for it. You can choose it right now, today. And when you make that choice not once, but over and over again, you begin to build a life that's not dependent on external forces. You build a life that's shaped by intention, commitment, and strength from within. Because in the end, it's not motivation that will carry you, it's discipline. There's a misconception many people carry, that discipline is about restriction, about saying no, about shrinking your life to fit inside rigid boundaries. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, discipline is the foundation of freedom. It's what gives you the ability to choose rather than react. It doesn't confine you, it liberates you. And once you understand that, everything changes. Most people think freedom means doing what you want, when you want, with no structure, no limits. But that version of freedom, if we're honest, often leads to chaos. It leads to unfinished work, missed opportunities, wasted time. It feels good in the short term, but it erodes our clarity and our momentum over time. Real freedom, the kind that allows you to do your best work, to lead with clarity, to live with intention, comes from structure. And structure is born out of discipline. Think about it. When your days are shaped by discipline, you no longer waste energy deciding what to do next. You're not constantly reacting to emergencies or scrambling to catch up. You know your priorities. You've created systems that support your values. You've designed your day instead of letting your day design you. That's freedom. It's the freedom to create without distraction, to focus without guilt, to pursue excellence without being pulled in 1,000 directions. Without discipline, every choice becomes a negotiation. Should I do this now or later? Should I skip today and make it up tomorrow? That internal debate wears you down. It drains your willpower, but discipline simplifies your life. It removes the noise. You don't need to convince yourself every day to act. You've already decided. And that decision made once saves you from making it over and over again. It gives you space to think about more important things. Space to lead, to build, to grow. That's what I mean when I say discipline creates freedom. It's not about controlling every minute of your life. It's about designing the kind of life that aligns with your values and your goals. It's about choosing how you show up. Not once in a while, but every single day. And that consistency begins to compound. It builds trust, not only with yourself, but with the people around you. People begin to rely on your steadiness, your clarity, your ability to deliver without drama. That's the mark of leadership. And it starts with structure. Even creativity, which many think thrives only in spontaneity, is at its best when supported by discipline. The most groundbreaking ideas come from people who sit down every day and do the work, even when they don't feel like it. They've created the space for creativity to show up. They've trained their minds to be ready. That structure gives their imagination a place to live, to grow, to evolve. In a world that's constantly moving faster, where distractions are louder than ever, discipline gives you an edge. It gives you control over your time, and time is the most valuable resource we have. When you're disciplined, you protect that time. You use it intentionally. You stop letting urgency dictate your direction. You stop getting pulled into things that don't move you forward. That's not rigidity, that's clarity. And what's powerful is that this doesn't require perfection. You don't need to be flawless to be disciplined. You just need to be committed. Discipline doesn't mean you never fall off track. It means you have the framework to get back on. It means that even when things go sideways, you have the habits, the systems, and the mindset to realign quickly. That's what makes it sustainable. That's what makes it resilient. We've all had days where we feel like we're just responding to life instead of directing it. Days that end, and we wonder where the time went. That feeling of disconnection, of lack of progress, it doesn't come from working too hard. It comes from working without focus, from letting the hours slip away with no intentionality. Discipline brings that intention back. It reminds you of what matters. It puts the right things in front of you and gives you the strength to follow through. This isn't about building a perfect schedule or living a rigid life. It's about building a life where the things that matter most don't get lost in the noise. A life where freedom comes not from escaping responsibility, but from owning it. Because the freedom to do great work, to lead with purpose, to live with depth, that freedom only exists when discipline is present. So if you want more freedom in your life, more control, more peace, more clarity, don't look for ways to avoid structure. Build it, embrace it. Let discipline become the framework that supports your ambition. Let it become the quiet force that protects your energy, your focus, and your future. Because without discipline, there is no freedom. When we think about our future, where we want to be, who we want to become, it's easy to imagine a sudden breakthrough, a dramatic shift, a single moment that changes everything. But in reality, the future is shaped quietly, subtly, through the things we do every single day. It's not defined by one big event. It's defined by the habits we choose to build, the ones we repeat over and over, often when no one is watching. And those habits, more than talent, more than luck, more than inspiration, are the true architects of our lives. Discipline is what builds those habits. It's what turns intention into action and action into character. You can have the best plans, the clearest goals, the boldest dreams, but without disciplined habits, they stay out of reach. It's not because the vision was wrong, but because the execution didn't follow. That's why discipline matters so much. It's the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. The habits you form are shaping you, whether you're aware of it or not. Every day, you're either reinforcing a habit that pulls you closer to your potential or one that quietly drifts you away from it. That's not meant to pressure you, it's meant to empower you. Because the good news is you can choose. You can shape the path you're on, and it starts with the smallest actions, done consistently. There's a power in doing something well, not once, but every day. Whether it's the discipline to wake up early, to move your body, to focus on deep work without distraction, or to learn something new, it's in the daily practice that growth happens. Not the occasional effort, not the bursts of inspiration, but the steady rhythm of disciplined habits. That's where transformation lies. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Real change doesn't demand dramatic gestures. It asks for consistency. It asks for the patience to do what matters most, even when it feels slow, even when there are no immediate results. That's where most people give up, because we live in a world that rewards speed, that celebrates urgency. But real, lasting progress is built quietly. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's powerful. And here's something else that's often misunderstood. Discipline doesn't remove freedom or creativity. It amplifies them. When you have structured habits in place, you free up your mind from the constant decision, making the daily tug-of war between what you want now and what you want most. That clarity gives you the freedom to think deeply, to explore new ideas, to stretch your creativity without being distracted by chaos. It's also important to remember that your habits don't just shape your skills, they shape your identity. If you show up every day and act like someone who is committed, focused, and resilient, you begin to become that person. You don't wait to feel like it. You act your way into belief. That's how confidence is built, not through motivation, but through self-trust, respect earned by following through. Every time you choose a habit rooted in discipline, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to be. One vote won't decide the outcome, but as those votes accumulate, so does the identity. You begin to trust yourself. Others begin to trust you, and trust, both internal and external, is what allows you to lead, to build, and to sustain momentum when challenges come. This is true across every part of life, in health, in work, in relationships, in leadership. It's your habits that drive the outcome. And behind every strong habit is a foundation of discipline. When that foundation is strong, you don't crumble under pressure. You don't get thrown off by every shift or setback. You remain steady because the rhythm of discipline has already taught you how to navigate uncertainty with purpose. We're not born with this discipline. It's not something you either have or you don't. It's something you develop moment by moment, decision by decision. You build it by doing hard things not because they're easy, but because they're important. And over time, those hard things become your new normal. The things that used to challenge you become second nature. That's the result of disciplined habits, quietly stacking up, one after another. Eventually, the gap between who you are and who you want to become begins to close, not through force, not through inspiration alone, but through commitment. Through the small, unglamorous, repeated choices that accumulate into something far greater than any one moment ever could. Because in the end, your future isn't built in the big moments. It's built in the small ones, repeated with discipline, every single day. One of the most empowering realizations you can have is this: discipline is not something you're born with. It's not a personality trait or a fixed characteristic. It's a decision, a choice you make day by day, moment by moment. And that choice is available to every single one of us, no matter where we come from, no matter our past habits or current circumstances. Discipline isn't reserved for the gifted or the exceptional. It's built through ordinary decisions, repeated consistently, especially when they're difficult. We often admire disciplined individuals as though they're somehow different, as if they possess some secret strength we don't. But the truth is, what sets them apart isn't that they never feel tired or distracted or tempted. It's that they've learned to choose what matters over what's easy. They've trained themselves to show up even when it's inconvenient. And that training begins not with a grand gesture, but with one decision to start. Every time you make that choice to get up on time, to finish what you began, to stay focused when your mind wants to wander, you're reinforcing a muscle. And like any muscle, discipline grows stronger the more you use it. It might feel shaky at first, that's normal. But with each repetition, it becomes a little more natural. Eventually, what once felt like effort begins to feel like momentum. There's something incredibly powerful about knowing that you're in control of that process. You don't have to wait for better conditions. You don't need to rely on external support or perfect timing. You can begin exactly where you are with what you have right now. It doesn't matter how many times you've fallen off track. What matters is your willingness to stand up again and make a better choice today. Discipline doesn't demand perfection, it demands consistency. It's not about never missing a day or never making a mistake. It's about not letting one bad moment turn into a bad week, or one missed habit become a lifestyle. It's about shortening the gap between falling and getting back up. That's where progress lives, in the bounce back, in the recovery, in the resilience you build by choosing to begin again. And that choice, to begin again, is what gives discipline its quiet power. It's the decision to stop waiting for motivation, to stop hoping circumstances will change, to stop outsourcing your progress to the right time, the right tools, the right feeling. Discipline says, I'll do the work now, I'll keep showing up, I'll create the conditions I need, rather than waiting for them to arrive. That mindset is what separates growth from stagnation. It's what separates intention from transformation. You won't always feel ready. You won't always feel strong. But discipline gives you a place to stand. It anchors you when everything around you feels chaotic. And it reminds you that you don't have to feel inspired to act. You just have to act, because when you do, the feelings often follow. Clarity comes through doing, momentum comes through motion, and strength comes through the repetition of disciplined action. In a world that constantly distracts, that pulls your attention in every direction, this choice becomes even more critical. You can't afford to drift. You can't afford to hand over your time, your focus, your energy to things that don't serve your purpose. The decision to live with discipline is the decision to live intentionally, to align your daily actions with your deepest values. And when your days are shaped by that alignment, your life begins to move in the direction of your vision. The beautiful part is, you don't need a dramatic restart to begin. You don't need to wait until Monday, or the first of the month, or the next quarter. You can begin right here in this moment with one small decision. That's the power you have. You can change the trajectory of your day, your mindset, your future, simply by choosing to honor the discipline that's already within you. Because ultimately, discipline isn't something you find. It's something you decide, and that decision, made consistently, becomes the most reliable force in your life.